The love interest. Now, this is, outside a hero and adversary, I believe the love interest character is the most fascinating of the rest of the character categories because it's so replete with emotion and a way to explore the nature of the hero, what is right with them and what is hurting them and what is wrong with them too. The love interest creates a subplot or a main plot and drives story change and humanizes the hero. There's, through intimate emotions, but it's about mate bonding with a love interest character. That's what it is. And there is a way to tell. I think this is important to know because a lot of people get confused about love interest characters, whether they're co-heroes or what is their place in the story. There is a way to know whether a love interest character is a subplot or the main plot. And it's this. If you took the love interest character and that relationship out of the movie, would you still have a story? That's how you do it. And sometimes, we're going to see, when I have some examples here lined up, you'll see what I mean. But that's important to know. Drives story change, works alternately for and against the hero. Remember, every character category isn't only about helping the hero. There has to be challenge and there has to be conflict too for it to work. The love interest character works alternately for and against the hero. And the issue of a love interest character with the hero, whoever he or she is, the love interest character adds sexual tension and a sexual conflict going on under the surface of things. Because that plot is about, in fact, mate bonding, which is, in fact, about sexual conquest. Now, I'm stating it bluntly to make the point. I mean, there's a lot of wiggle room there. And using this plot or subplot, you can do it from the very, very gentle and hardly hinting at sexuality at all, to the incredibly steamy, and everything in between. And that, of course, depends on you, and it depends on the story you're trying to write. You get your choice. But the thing is, it is there. And once you have sexual tension between people, it is a universal thing. Every nation, every language, humanity gets what that is. I mean, we are sensual creatures, and therefore you are offering up emotion that is international in scope. And you can use that for character growth purposes, for challenges of personality and how people must grow, and all that kind of stuff. It is the well of what you want screenwriting and visual storytelling to be, which is the pursuit of emotion. It's amazing. It works very well. And it also pushes the hero into character growth. And yes, people sometimes get this wrong. If a couple is married at the beginning of the film, of your story, and with some ups and downs, whatever, but they stay married and they are reasonably happy together all the way through the movie and to the end, that is not a love interest character. It has to be about this, back and forth, opposing and then helping and opening. A couple of examples of that. There are two Apollo movies that have come out. Actually, three lately, but the two that I'm thinking of are Apollo 13, which goes back a ways, and the latest one, which was overlooked by everybody, which is really tragic because I thought it was really, I've seen it 3 times now, and it's just riveting. And it's First Man. It was the true rendition of the true story of what's his name? The first Armstrong, Neil Armstrong. But Neil Armstrong is married. And in Apollo 13, Tom Hanks is married too. And the married spouse at home becomes that category of character that they turn into is the endangered innocent, not a love interest. They become the goal of those two astronauts. They are going through all of this, and all they want to do, for all the, the problems that come up and the possibilities of dying that come up, they want to surmount all that so that they can get back to Earth and save that endangered innocent from the metaphorical death that she would also be experiencing if he were to die in space. That is an endangered innocent plot, and that is not a love interest plot. Okay, here's some example. Neytiri, where is she? Oh, wait a minute, here she is. In Avatar. Oh, again, what a wonderful relationship in that picture. And this I ask you. She's also doing a whole lot of mentor duties, again, but overlaid with sexual tension, because that's key to that relationship. It just is, and elevates it. If you take Neytiri out of Avatar, do you still have a movie? Yeah, you do. Which means Neytiri is a love interest subplot. It is not the main plot. Although she's there and it's big and it's important and all that stuff, but all the same, it is a subplot. It is not the primary goal. All right? Officer Rhodes in Bridesmaids, that's easier to see and to be able to say, if you took him out of it, could you still have a movie? Yes, you could. That's a subplot. Lisa McDowell in Coming to America. If you removed her from Coming to America, would you still have a movie? You sure? Yeah. No, yeah, that's it. This is not fair. I'm going back too far here. You would not, because she is the hero's, Eddie Murphy, the prince. She is his goal. He goes to America to find a woman that he can fall in love with and marry, and not have to marry the woman that he knows nothing about and really doesn't care about back home, that the king, his father, has chosen for him. She is the goal. Therefore, she is a love interest character who also provides, there's a double role here. We won't talk about it tonight, but the love interest, who is the main goal, also plays adversary. They are each other's adversary and love interest simultaneously. That's why it works differently, and we'll talk about that another time. Alicia Nash in A Beautiful Mind. If you take her out, what?
You could solve them.
Yes, it would be crushingly less interesting and very diminished, but yes, you could remove her, and you would still have the man struggling to come back from madness and making it. Yes, so that is when one of the character categories gets played by a movie star, and it is big. It takes a lot of screen time, and it's really important to things, but it is still a subplot in its way. That is called a charismatic whatever, a charismatic mentor, or a charismatic love interest. They get a lot of screen time, but at their core, they are still filling the functions of these subcategories. George, of course. June Carter. How about June Carter and Johnny Cash? If you took June Carter out of there, would there still be a movie? What does he want? Throughout, he wants June Carter. Even more than he wants to be famous as a singer, he wants her. Yeah, she is the love interest adversary for that film, and so forth. Okay, you get the idea. Now then, this example I've chosen for a love interest character. This is Carol the Waitress in As Good as It Gets. This one had me stumped for a while when I first sat down to analyze it. I thought it was a 3-hero movie. And then I went through it once and I said, no, that doesn't work. And I took a harder look at it. This is a 1-hero movie. Melvin Udall is the hero because it is Melvin who wants Carol. She never, until, at certain points toward the end, expresses really any romantic interest in this poor man who is trapped in being a jerk, because of the nature of how he defends himself against all emotion. But the beauty of the profession that has been assigned to him, which is a very successful romance novel writer, it's perfect. That is the true him screaming to get out, that kind of thing. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful story, wonderfully written. But okay, at this point, and this is part of a midpoint sequence, Carol, her son, I believe it's asthma, he's got asthma really bad, the kind that under certain conditions the kid could die from. And he had a really bad attack, and she got all panicked, and she's a waitress who waits on Melvin every morning. And how many of you have seen this? Okay, most. Okay, cool, good. Then you get it. And then after Melvin sends a top-flight, top-dollar doctor to her apartment to see the boy, and he writes prescriptions, and he's telling her, it's going to be okay. We're going to bring him back, and he knows how to do it. And she's been getting, crap advice from these other, bad, cheap programs, healthcare programs that she's had. Carol couldn't afford the doctor for her sick son, so Melvin got her a very high-end one. And in the middle of the night, she got up, she sleeps on the couch, and she pulled on her jeans. She has to tell Melvin something. She is burning with the need to tell Melvin something. And she runs out to get to his place in the night, in the middle of the night. That's how urgent this is for her. And that's telling us something right there. Well, it happens to be raining that night, and she also gets soaked. So she's dripping, soaking wet by the time she gets to Melvin's apartment building. And of course, Melvin is very well off, and the apartment is very upscale. So here she is, and she's coming up to his front door. This is a comedy. This is a romantic comedy. And this whole thing, setting it up this way, especially what she's going to be telling him, that she has to tell him face by face that the rain is accentuating a sensuality in her that she is about to deny. And it's perfect as a juxtaposition. So she knocks, it's me, and Melvin lives alone, self-created isolation. No one can stand him. Early on, I guess it's the next door neighbor, Simon, says to Melvin, "You are a horror of a human being." That's the general attitude that he has created out there in the world. And then he hears, my goodness, it's Carol the waitress. He wants her to wait on him every day when he goes for breakfast, because she's the only one who will wait on him, because she can give guff as good as she gets it, from this guy. But he has stronger feelings. He's of an age, he's desperate, he's got to break out of his prison, and he knows that. And he's drawn to her. And one of the reasons Melvin is sympathetic is we like her too. She's a genuine human being. She's a terrific lady. And you can tell by, caring for her son and all. And he's making a good choice here. And therefore, we're kind of rooting for him in strange ways. Okay, but because of his OCD, he is insufferable, always cracking wise with sharp put-downs for everyone. And she says, "I'm sorry about the hour, but I must speak with you." He hasn't opened the door yet. And now he opens the door. Melvin opens the door and immediately averts his eyes, embarrassed at seeing her T-shirt. He was not expecting this, because for him, the sensuality there is it's funny. and the way the scene is being played and what's going on between them. But what is being done here by the writers and by the director is they are playing the element of sensuality and sexuality and mate bonding conquest. That is what they are playing here. Romantic comedies and romances all have to have something insurmountable between the two potential lovers. Insurmountable, and that's what the story is about, how they finally get together. In this case, what is insurmountable is Melvin's personality. Okay, and his eyes, averts his eyes and so forth, just glancing at the T-shirt, and she finally catches up with it. I mean, she's cold, she's wet, she wasn't thinking about that. Oops. Carol realizes the physical picture she is unwittingly presenting. Melvin can't take his eyes from wandering a bit, but he also looks down and sees that she's sopping wet. She's dripping all over the floor, all over the hallway. For a guy like Melvin, he can't step on a crack, let alone watch somebody standing there dripping all over everything. Carol waits for Melvin to be polite and offer her a bloody towel. So he's flummoxed at this point, and so and he goes inside and he doesn't know what to say. And Melvin hates thank yous. Again, it's part of his no emotion. He fights emotion at every turn. Thank yous contain emotion, and he always avoids revealing emotion. And that's his sarcastic, nasty wit. That's another way he avoids emotion. But he says, if you've come to thank me, don't. Put it in a note. He doesn't want any emotion expressed face to face, even just in a thank you. So he gets her a towel. There's another funny bit in there. We won't go there. And Carol just has to ask, why did you do this for Spencer? That's her son. And Melvin said, I wanted you to come back to the restaurant and wait on me. And she says, do you have any idea how odd that sounds? But it's pure Melvin, too, and we know that. So he blurts it. So what have you come to tell me? What is this? And there is one of the more charming, elongated, deathly silences between two people now. The awkward silence lingers. He's come all this way, and it's cold and the wet. And she's trying to find the words to say what she came to say. And it's not coming. She really struggles with it. And on until she can finally blurt it out all at once, push it out and say, I will never sleep with you. Never. That's what woke her up in the middle of the night and drove her through the rain. She was terrified, worried that this is why he did this. And in truth, that had something to do with it. We're about to see that here too. But also, again, a relative to the sexual tension. Okay, if that's her message, that could have waited until, next morning at the cafe. Why this absolute burning urgency? There's something else going on there. All of Melvin's defenses go up, and he resorts to his self-protective, cynical, sharp tongue. Because deep down, that was what he was hoping or thinking. Well, we don't open for the no sex oaths until 9 a.m. And again, that's pure Melvin, right? And again, he's just being defensive and obnoxious, and that's how he gets defensive. And she turns to go, and she mumbles, I really mean it. And he blurts, will you be at the restaurant to wait on me tomorrow? That's a very strange thing to say, and to go through all of this for that. And she says yes, and she goes. That's the scene. And next, this comes right next, and this only is a few seconds long. We cut to a close-up of his clock, and then his slippers while he's in bed now, sleeping, and mumbling to himself, half asleep. Never, she says, never. And then he gets up and he puts on his slippers. And what is happening here is perfect for a midpoint sequence. Perfect. The second step of character growth, which usually takes place in Hero Goal Sequence 12, is when the hero undertakes a physical action, some sort of metaphoric physical action, to overcome what is stopping them and clogging them emotionally inside. And that is exactly what Melvin does. A man who hates all pills gets up to take his first anti-obsessive compulsive disorder pill ever. That is a huge thing for Melvin. So, all right, the love interest as Carol, and at the midpoint, we understand, the kind of wacky, rare and wacky nature of that relationship. Creates a subplot or main plot? Absolutely. Drives story change and humanizes the hero? You bet. Works alternately for and against the hero? Yes, throughout, and in other ways she is doing that. Adds sexual tension and a sexual conquest conflict. Remember, that can be just a small tone, a mood. It's not, nothing blatant or flagrant necessarily. And pushes the hero into character growth. He just took the pill. Yes, all of that is true of this character. I think it's a very unusual love interest relationship with the hero. When you see the whole thing, I think it works marvelously. Okay, sidekick.